Broke girl married a CEO without knowing his darkest secret. What she found out on their honeymoon changed everything. Broke girl married a CEO without knowing his darkest secret. What she found out on their honeymoon changed everything. If you love love stories filled with emotion, plot twists, and overcoming obstacles, make sure to subscribe to the channel because that really helps us grow and bring even more stories like this one to you. And take a second to comment below where you're watching from. I love knowing how far these stories are reaching. The evening light streamed through the huge windows of the Charleston Grace, filling the room with shades of gold and amber. The grand hall, adorned with elegant crystal chandeliers and oak-paneled walls, radiated an atmosphere of sophistication that cruelly contrasted with the invisible weight Emma Sullivan carried on her chest. Her wavy red hair was tied back in a makeshift ponytail, her fair skin dotted with delicate freckles that seemed to glow under the soft light, and her green eyes reflected a world of crushed dreams. Emma moved between the tables with quick steps and trembling hands, trying to hide the desperation that threatened to spill over. She had barely slept in the past few days, worried about her mother's medical bills, which only got worse with every new test, and the crushing weight of debt that suffocated her. But there she was, smiling at customers who barely noticed her presence, trying to offer what little she could, courteous service in a place she never imagined she'd belong. In the distance, at the center of the hall, a particular table drew everyone's eyes: men in perfectly tailored suits, women dressed in silk gowns, and among them Benjamin Harrington. He looked like a living statue, impeccable in his dark suit, his dark blonde hair styled with military precision, and his grayish-blue eyes scanning the menu with a coldness that was almost cruel. His tall, athletic frame dominated the space, and his serious, almost untouchable expression carried the weight of secrets that kept him isolated from the world. When Emma approached to take the order, her heart raced, not out of fear, but because deep down she knew a storm was about to begin. Benjamin raised his eyes, piercing her with a silent judgment before even opening his mouth. "Could you pay a little more attention? I've already asked 3 times not to bring me this bitter leaf salad." His voice struck like a sharp blow, harsh and merciless, revealing an impatience that wasn't just with the food, but with life itself. Emma felt a wave of shame and anger rise in her throat, but all she could do was take a deep breath and reply in a shaky but steady voice, "I apologize, Mr. Harrington. I'll fix it right away." Her smile tried to mask the pain spreading through her body like an open wound. The stares from other customers turned toward her, some filled with judgment, others with silent pity, but none freed her from the quiet humiliation growing inside her. As she walked away, her fingers gripped the edge of the tray tightly, as if it were the only anchor keeping her steady. In her eyes, a storm of held-back tears, and in her chest, a knot of despair and determination. "I won't let him destroy me," she murmured to herself. "My mother depends on me, and I won't fail." On the other side of the room, Benjamin watched Emma walk away. For a brief moment, a shadow crossed his blue-gray eyes, a mix of curiosity and something he couldn't quite name. Behind the armor of coldness and control, there was a man torn apart by old traumas, and something about that young woman, that pain she was trying so hard to hide, touched a long-forgotten part of his heart. For the first time in a long while, he wondered if redemption could exist for both of them, even coming from such different worlds. That first encounter wasn't just a clash of realities. It was the spark that would ignite a story of love, pain, and resilience, marked by the battle between what fate demands and what the heart refuses to give up. The afternoon sun was already starting to set when Emma returned to the modest apartment she shared with her mother, Helen Sullivan. The place was small, with walls worn down by time and simple furniture, but every corner carried painful memories and stories that her mother's chronic illness made even harder to bear. Helen sat in her favorite armchair, an old piece with frayed fabric, looking at Emma with eyes filled with the sorrow of a woman who had watched her world fall apart. "Emma, my daughter, don't you think it's strange how fast our family fell? How your father's health faded away along with everything he built?" Her voice was fragile, a mix of bitterness and barely contained despair. What happened wasn't just bad luck or fate, it was betrayal. Betrayal disguised as business. Emma sat beside her mother, holding her thin, cold hands. "Mom, tell me everything. I can't carry this pain alone." Emma's eyes, intense and shining, searched for the truth with urgency. Helen swallowed her anguish and then began to reveal the secret that had haunted their family for years. Richard Harrington, the grandfather of that man you saw at the restaurant, he was just a wolf disguised as an honest businessman. He tricked your father into a fraudulent partnership. They promised growth, wealth, a future. But it was nothing more than a cruel scam. They diverted money, destroyed our family's company, and left us in ruins. Emma felt the world spin around her. The cold, distant image of Benjamin now had a different meaning. He was the grandson of that man. The man responsible for her family's suffering, for her mother's, for her father's, for hers. How did I never know this? Why did no one ever tell me? Because the truth hurts too much, and because Richard never wanted his name stained. He hid everything, protected his family, while ours sank into misery. Helen lowered her voice, a stream of tears slipping down her face. "And your mother's illness, all of this has been killing me little by little, sweetheart." A heavy silence filled the room, like a storm ready to break. Emma held her mother's hands tightly, feeling a mix of anger, sadness, and a deep desire for justice. "They destroyed our lives and won't even admit it. But I won't let this end like that." On the other side of the city, inside the imposing headquarters of the Harrington Group, Benjamin stood face to face with his grandfather, Richard, a man whose wrinkles told not only of age, but of secrets guarded with iron fists. Richard leaned on the massive mahogany table in the conference room, his voice sharp as a whip. "Benjamin, forget about the past. We built this empire with sweat and blood. We can't lose everything over old ghosts." Benjamin didn't look away. "Grandfather, hiding the truth doesn't erase the pain we caused. The Sullivan family paid a heavy price, and I can't just turn my back on that." Richard scoffed, his irritation growing. "You're being naive. Business is business. The world isn't a fairy tale, boy." Benjamin felt the weight of responsibility, crushing his chest. All his life he had wanted to be a worthy heir, but now he realized the family legacy was a prison full of shadows. Later, out on the street, Emma watched Benjamin walk into a building made of glass and steel, a symbol of wealth and power that had always seemed out of reach for her. A whirlwind of emotions filled her, anger, fear, curiosity, and one question burned in her mind. How could someone like him carry the weight of such a cruel history and still seek redemption? Alone in her room, with the window slightly open, letting in the cold night breeze, Emma whispered to the empty air, "Why do our paths keep crossing like this? Is there forgiveness for someone who carries so much guilt?" As the moon lit up the city, the secret buried for decades started to break the silence, ready to forever change the lives of those brave enough to face it. The afternoon slowly faded, under Charleston's golden sky, painting the streets with warm, melancholic tones, as if even time itself could feel the weight of what was about to happen. Emma, exhausted after another shift at the Charleston Grace, her sanctuary amid life's hardships, was tidying up the last dishes, her thin body tired but her spirit unbreakable. Her simple, slightly wrinkled dress couldn't hide the marks of effort. slightly calloused hands, worn nails, and green eyes that still held a spark of hope, even when the world seemed to conspire against her. When Benjamin walked in, the heavy air of his own worries surrounded him like an invisible armor, though his grayish-blue eyes carried an unexpectedly vulnerable glow. He was no longer the stern, untouchable man from the last time. There was hesitation in his steps, a doubt that seemed to trouble him. Emma felt her heart race as she noticed he was looking at her differently, not with that cold gaze of judgment, but like someone searching for an answer to something he didn't even know how to explain. She stepped closer, paper and pen trembling slightly in her hands, trying to keep her voice steady. "So, Mr. Harrington, what will it be today?" Her voice came out soft, but full of restrained emotion. He hesitated, fighting his own pride. Finally, he answered in a tone barely audible, "What do you recommend, Emma?" A name. Her name. A kind of intimacy he didn't even know he could have with her, made something ache inside his chest. Emma took a deep breath, feeling the heat rise to her face. The pumpkin soup is made with fresh pumpkins from Mrs. Miller's farm. It's simple, but made with care. Benjamin stepped closer, so close Emma could feel his breath. "Why do you seem to care about me? I'm just another customer to you." She held his gaze, steady, as if trying to communicate everything words couldn't say. "Because I see beyond appearances, Benjamin. I see the man you try to hide. And I know there's pain you don't want anyone to see." Silence settled between them, heavy with electricity and unspoken secrets. Benjamin lowered his gaze, unable to respond, and when he did, his voice carried a thread of pain. "You don't know what I carry, or what it means to be part of this family." Emma looked away, a single tear sliding down her pale face. Her voice breaking into a whisper. "I carry scars too, Benjamin. Scars no one can see, but they hurt like open wounds." It was as if time had frozen there, in that instant when two souls, stripped of their defenses, accidentally touched. But fear and pride, those silent enemies, quickly rose between them like stone walls. Benjamin stepped back, his expression hardening, trying to regain control. "This doesn't change anything. We're from different worlds. You're a waitress, and I'm a man who carries the weight of an empire." Emma, with eyes burning, answered with fierce conviction, "Maybe that's exactly why we need to understand what's between us, because worlds that drift too far apart end up destroying each other." He turned his back, but a hesitation in his step revealed that this conversation was only the beginning of something much bigger. A silent battle between the heart and reason. Later, Benjamin, alone in his luxurious apartment, stared out at the city lights, but felt a darkness inside him that no artificial light could chase away. "Why do you get under my skin, Emma? Why does the simple sound of your name stir up storms inside me?" he murmured, clenching his fists. Across town, Emma sat in the small bedroom she shared with her mother, holding a piece of fabric in her, trembling hands, trying to push away the fear consuming her. "He's not just the arrogant man I thought he was. There's something broken in him, and maybe just like me, he's searching for something he doesn't know how to find." That night, as Charleston was covered in stars, fate, relentless and subtle, began, weaving the threads of a story filled with passion, pain, and hope, where pride would be the greatest obstacle to overcome and love the only weapon strong enough to break down walls. The modest house where Emma and her mother lived seemed swallowed by the heavy silence of that morning in Charleston. The cold air slipped through the slightly open windows, and pale light timidly filtered in, casting long shadows that danced on the time-stained walls. The familiar scent of chamomile tea and medicine lingered in the air, but something cruelly missing made Emma's chest tighten. She entered her mother's room slowly, her footsteps echoing on the worn wooden floor. There, the scene was almost too perfect. The bed made with the patchwork quilt her mother had sewn with such care, the curtains fluttering in the light breeze, and the empty rocking chair, like a silent ghost reminding of a presence that should have been there. Emma called out, her voice caught by anguish. "Mom, are you there? Please, answer me." Only silence replied, cold and threatening. Her heart beat faster when her eyes caught an envelope on the nightstand, the yellowed paper. Bearing shaky handwriting she recognized immediately. With fingers trembling from fear, she unfolded the note and began reading, the words cutting her soul like a sharp knife. "My beloved Emma, I know this decision will hurt, but I can't stay any longer. Fear has overcome me, and I'm afraid of what might happen if I stay. There are dangerous people connected to your family and to the Harrington name. I need to leave so you can be safe. Never doubt my love and the strength I carry for you. I promise to come back when everything is clearer. Take care of yourself, my daughter. With eternal love, Mom." Emma felt a knot form in her throat, and tears flowed like a river that could no longer be held back. She sat down on the cold bedroom floor, clutching the note to her chest, feeling her world fall apart in pieces. "No, it can't be like this. Mom, why are you leaving me alone? Why do you run from fear when I can't escape my own?" Her voice broke with desperate sobs. The room seemed to close in around her, the heavy silence now a dull scream inside her soul. Hours passed. She tried calling her mother's cell phone over and over, every call going to voicemail, her anguish growing like a storm ready to break. At work, Emma barely managed to focus. Her head spun, her heart tight, every minute away from her mother, a torture. Somewhere downtown, Benjamin Harrington received an urgent call that made him freeze in the middle of a meeting room. The voice on the other end sounded grave, filled with a tension he didn't want to face. "Benjamin, Emma Sullivan is in serious trouble. Her mother has disappeared. There are signs that someone connected to the Harrington family might be involved." The words hit him like a sentence. Benjamin gripped the phone until his knuckles turned white, anger and guilt burning in his chest. "This can't be happening. I have to find that woman before it's too late." As night fell over Charleston, the city lights shone like distant stars, indifferent to the human pain unfolding below. Emma, alone in the small apartment, felt the emptiness inside turn into a dark force, an invitation to surrender. But in the midst of despair, a spark of courage ignited within her, fierce and relentless. She wiped her tears with the back of her hand, stood up, and whispered into the darkness surrounding her, "I will find you, Mom, even if I have to face the whole world alone." Fate was beginning to chart its next steps, intertwining Emma's and Benjamin's lives in an irrevocable way, under the weight of secrets and lies that threatened to destroy everything. In the oppressive silence of an office that felt more like an impenetrable fortress, Benjamin Harrington stared out over the vast city of Charleston, as if searching for answers in the distant lights. Night had fallen, dyeing the sky a deep blue, and the cool breeze coming through the open window seemed to carry the weight of long-buried secrets. His face, marked by a hardened expression that rarely softened with any sign of vulnerability, was now shadowed with anguish. His steady hands, used to commanding empires, trembled slightly as he held the phone, the object that might hold the key to unraveling the mystery consuming him from within. A mix of guilt, fear, and determination made him feel torn, as if fighting an invisible enemy who was none other than himself. Benjamin knew Emma's life depended on this, but more than that, he felt a responsibility beyond cold, calculated business. It was a burden, coming from the depths of his family history, a silent debt his soul had carried forever. He thought of Emma's mother, that brave woman who had chosen silence and escape over confrontation, and felt the urgency of the moment. "I have to act. I need to find the truth before it's too late," he murmured, his voice almost a whisper cutting through the heavy air of the room. In the grand hall of the Harrington mansion, the long-anticipated confrontation took place. Gregory Harrington, Benjamin's father, was the embodiment of power and tradition, a man whose authority brooked no challenge. The contrast between them was clear. Benjamin, young and troubled; Gregory, firm and unshakable. "Are you trying to ruin everything, Benjamin?" Gregory's voice was a command, cold and sharp. "Investigating a girl like that, messing with our family name. Don't you see what that means?" Benjamin lifted his chin, meeting his father's icy gaze. "It means I can't keep turning a blind eye to what happened to the Sullivan family. This injustice has been buried too long, and I'm going to bring it to light, for Emma and for my own peace." Gregory laughed, a rough, scornful sound that echoed through the walls. "You're weak, son, letting yourself be carried away by sentiments that have no place in this cruel world." But Benjamin had already made his decision. No matter the cost, no matter the fight ahead. He picked up the phone and with a firm click activated his contacts. Detectives, former FBI agents, journalists, all part of an invisible network that would begin to scour every lead, every shadow that might lead to the missing mother. Every step he took brought him closer to the truth, but also farther from the safety of his own family. He felt Gregory's gaze like invisible daggers every day that passed. Meanwhile, Emma, unaware of Benjamin's secret moves, lived days filled with anguish and uncertainty. The apartment she shared with her mother felt like a sanctuary now, holding only echoes of memories and a note that burned in her heart. On a cold night, Benjamin stayed alone in the office, looking out at the city and whispering into the emptiness. "I won't let her suffer anymore. I'll face everything, even those who swore to protect our name, to save what's left." The darkness of the night was an accomplice to his secret, and the fight was only beginning. Night fell heavy over Charleston when Benjamin, still in the quiet Harrington Enterprises office, received news he never expected. Derek Mason, his longtime friend, had become his worst enemy. Derek, with his cold smile and eyes shining with a malice Benjamin had never imagined, had just publicly exposed the dark secret Benjamin carried so heavily in his heart. On the laptop screen, hundreds of documents leaked to the media. Fake contracts, hidden emails, concrete proof of Benjamin's grandfather's involvement in the Sullivan family's bankruptcy, the same cruel act that destroyed Emma's mother's life. The world Benjamin had built with so much effort seemed to crumble into pieces before his eyes. Feeling betrayed and suffocated, Benjamin confronted Derek in the luxurious office that now felt like a cage. "How could you do this to me? I trusted you with everything, Derek. I was trying to fix the past so Emma could have some justice. Don't you understand what this means?" Derek stepped forward, his voice low and sharp like a blade. "You've always lived in this bubble of privilege, Benjamin. While you hid behind your name and legacy, I saw true suffering. If no one told, no one would ever know what really happened. I just revealed the truth, no matter the cost." Benjamin felt the air leave his chest. He could hardly believe that the friend he had sworn loyalty to had chosen revenge and destruction. His hands, so steady and confident so many times before, now trembled as he looked at the phone, where Emma's messages kept piling up without end. Across town, in the small apartment where Emma lived, the young redhead read the news. Each word felt like a dagger to her chest. The pain of her missing mother, added to the cruel revelation of the Harrington family's involvement, was a storm that left her unsteady. Tears streamed down her pale face, mixing with delicate freckles. With a broken heart, she typed a message that was more like a muffled scream. "Benjamin, I can't believe in you anymore. You are part of what destroyed my family. Stay away." At that moment, Benjamin felt the night's silence heavier than ever. The betrayal of his friend, Emma's lost trust, and the weight of a cursed legacy surrounded him in a darkness that seemed endless, but even in that deep pain, a spark of fight lit in his eyes. He knew the battle was far from over, and that the only way to overcome everything was to face the shadows of the past, even if it meant fighting those he once called family. The sun was already setting behind the dusty windows of Emma's small apartment, casting orange hues that kissed her pale skin, marked by delicate freckles. The thin hands that had once trembled with exhaustion and insecurity now moved firmly over the old sewing machine, each stitch a silent battle against the sadness that lingered around her heart. The air was filled with the smell of fabrics and colorful threads, mixed with the bitter memory of her mother's absence and Benjamin's betrayal, which felt like a deep cut to her chest. Emma had no one left to turn to, no embrace to comfort her lonely nights, only the raw strength of her dream, that thin thread that, amidst the chaos, was beginning to weave her future. It was on a cold morning, amid the coming and going of customers at the cafe where she worked, that Grace Whitman, an elegant, middle-aged woman with a seasoned gaze and a warm smile, approached her, holding a handmade blouse decorated with delicate lace and fine embroidery. "Emma, your work is a rare gem. Have you ever thought about taking this passion beyond here? Charleston needs to see your talent," Grace said, her voice soft but firm, making the young redhead's heart race. "I can help open doors for you, if you're ready to take that step." Emma held the dress tightly, her green eyes shining, with held-back tears. "I don't know if I deserve it. My world is in ruins. My mother disappeared, my family destroyed, and I'm just a girl with a needle and a lot of longing." Grace smiled gently. "Sometimes scars are what make us strong, and your talent is what will rewrite your story. You're not alone." So, driven by that opportunity, Emma threw herself body and soul into creating Sullivan Atelier. Each piece was more than clothing. It was overcoming, the silent scream of someone who refuses to give up. Nights turned into days as she stitched dreams, facing exhaustion, doubts, and the fear of rejection. Gradually, people started to notice. Loyal customers who saw in the clothes the beating heart of a young woman who, despite her losses, kept standing. A new light grew in Emma's eyes. The shy smile that returned showed the strength of someone who had learned to walk on her own. One afternoon, when the boutique was nearly empty, Emma held a light blue dress embroidered with delicate flowers and whispered to herself, her voice trembling with hope and determination. "I'm no longer the broken girl who cried alone. I'm a woman who chose to fight, and this story will be mine." But on the horizon, shadows moved silently, ready to challenge this new life she was starting to build. And Charleston, with its traditions and secrets, still held surprises that could change everything again. Night was falling over Charleston, painting the sky with orange hues that soon gave way to the grey and dark blue of night. The city lights began to turn on, reflecting in the windows and on the sidewalks wet from the rain that had just stopped. Benjamin stood across the street, staring intently at the window of the small atelier, now bearing the surname of the person he had hurt the most, Sullivan. Inside, Emma was bent over an old wooden workbench, carefully adjusting the hem of a wedding dress with delicate but firm hands. Her brown hair was tied in a casual bun, with a few strands falling onto her face. Her gaze was focused, but a shadow of sadness still lived deep in her eyes, even as she tried to smile at the client thanking her. Benjamin clenched his hands inside the coat pockets, his chest tight, the lump in his throat growing with every heartbeat. His reflection in the glass looked like a stranger. Who was that man? Who had he become? "It's now or never," he muttered to himself, crossing the street with determined steps, though each one felt as heavy as lead. Hearing the sound of the door opening, Emma looked up. Her eyes, once sweet, now hardened. Her hands trembled for a second, but she quickly took a deep breath, adjusting her apron with grace and firmness. "If you came to order a suit, I can recommend another place," she said, crossing her arms, trying to keep her composure even. Though her heart was racing like it wanted to run away, Benjamin swallowed hard. His eyes scanned every detail of the place. It was simple, cozy, smelling of new fabric, threads, and coffee. An entire wall displayed framed photos of pieces Emma had made, and in the corner, an old sewing machine that clearly had sentimental value. "Emma, please, I didn't come here as a customer. I came because I needed to see you." His voice faltered at the end, and he closed his eyes for a moment, searching for strength where there was none left. "See me?" She raised an eyebrow, letting out a short, bitter laugh. "After everything? After finding out you carried the name, the blood of the ones who destroyed my family? After you hid that from me? After making me believe that... She couldn't finish. Her voice caught, and tears, despite her will, began to form. Benjamin stepped closer slowly, like someone afraid that one wrong move would break something already in pieces. "I didn't choose to be a Harrington, Emma. But I chose not to be their accomplice anymore. I confronted my father, faced shame, guilt, lawsuits, the press, everything. Everything for you. Because I love you. And I needed to free myself from that dirty past to be worthy of you." She blinked several times, fighting the whirlwind inside her. "Worthy?" Her hands trembled, and she brought one to her chest, as if trying to hold her own heart from breaking again. "Benjamin, love doesn't erase everything. Love doesn't heal everything. Do you think a few newspaper headlines, a fight with your father, and a nice speech erase years of pain, of humiliation, of watching my mother waste away in that bed, while the money that could have saved her was in your family's hands?" He squeezed his eyes shut, the pain spilling out in tears he could no longer hold back. I know I can't change the past, Emma, but I'm here to change what comes next. I'm willing to do anything, anything." She took a deep breath, stepping back a few paces, shaking her head. "You don't understand, Benjamin. I've learned to live without you. Learned not to need anyone. I rebuilt myself. I became someone you never imagined I could be." Benjamin smiled sadly. "You always were. You always were so much more than I could see, and maybe I need to accept that loving you also means letting you go." The silence that followed was deafening. Tears streamed down both their faces, but no words were enough to fill that emptiness. Suddenly, the sound of the atelier's old phone broke the moment. Emma quickly wiped her face, cleared her throat and answered, "Sullivan Atelier, good afternoon." On the other end, a trembling, almost unrecognizable voice made her body freeze. "Emma, it's me." Her eyes widened, and she nearly dropped the phone. "Mom!" Benjamin immediately noticed the change in her face. "What's wrong? What happened?" But Emma didn't answer. Her lips trembled. Her eyes, once full of pain from love, now overflowed with something much stronger, fear. The voice on the other end whispered, They found me, daughter. They know everything." And the line went silent. The receiver slipped from Emma's hands and hit the floor, breaking into pieces. She brought her hands to her mouth, her whole body shaking. Benjamin ran to her, holding her arms. "Emma, talk to me. What did she say?" Emma looked at him, pale-faced, eyes wide, and said with a voice choked by pure terror, "Benjamin, this isn't over yet." And in that moment, they both knew the past had not revealed all its secrets. The cold Charleston wind blew hard that grey morning, as if the city itself was taking a deep breath before something great happened. The heavy clouds seemed to threaten a storm. But fate is sometimes more unpredictable than the weather itself. After days of anguish, searching, and revelations that shook everything around, Emma was sitting on the pier, on the same bench she used to visit as a child with her mother. The salty smell of the sea mixed with the scent of magnolias surrounding. The dock, bringing back memories of a time when everything seemed simpler, safer. She stared at the horizon, her eyes fixed on the infinite, when she heard hurried footsteps approaching. Her heart recognized the sound before her mind could process it. She slowly turned, and there he was, Benjamin, different, thinner, more worn, but with a look that carried something new, something she had never seen in him before: humility. "Emma." His voice came out in a whisper, hoarse, filled with nervousness and hope. I needed to see you." She took a deep breath without standing up, without looking away from him. "I thought after everything, you wouldn't have the courage." He took another step, stopping right in front of her, hands in the pockets of his grey coat, as if trying to control the body that trembled. "Courage. I took time to find, but I found it. And for the first time, it's not to prove anything to anyone. It's to tell you that I'm no longer the man you knew." She crossed her arms, looking at him with that mixture of pain and longing that tore at her chest. "And why should I believe that, Benjamin? How many times did I think you were someone, only to find out you were just another Harrington?" He dropped to his knees, right there on the pier, not caring who was passing by, not caring if his expensive suit got dirty. He looked into her eyes, soul bare, without armor, without masks. "Because I lost everything, Emma. I broke with my father, my family, with everything that world stood for. The companies, the stocks, the name. I gave it all up. I chose to start over from zero. I chose to be just Benjamin, no last name, no fortune, and you know why? Because in the end, nothing made sense if it wasn't by your side." Tears started to run down her face as she tried in vain to keep her composure. You did all this for me." He held one of her hands, squeezing it gently. "For you, and for me. Because loving you taught me who I really am. And it taught me that love isn't about control. It isn't about power. It isn't about winning or losing. It's about choosing every day to be with the one you love, no matter what." She brought her free hand to her face, covering her mouth while tears flowed uncontrollably. For a few seconds, neither of them said a word. They just looked at each other, that kind of look that says more than 1,000 words, that heals wounds, that breaks chains. Finally, Emma smiled, a shy, fragile, but genuine smile. "You're such an idiot, Benjamin." Her voice faltered between a laugh and a sob. So stupid for taking so long to understand this." He laughed too, pulling her gently, and she didn't resist. She fell into his arms, holding him tightly, like someone trying to glue all the broken pieces back together. And there, amid the wind, the clouds, and the smell of salt, they allowed themselves to cry. But this time, it wasn't a cry of pain. It was relief. It was redemption. Benjamin held her face in his hands, looking deeply into her eyes. "Emma, give me a chance, not to fix the past, but to build a future. One where you don't have to defend yourself against me anymore. One where we're partners, equals. One where we fight together." She took a deep breath, running her fingers through his hair, and answered with a trembling but certain voice. "Then fight, Benjamin, because if we're going to start over, I won't accept anything less than everything." He smiled, a smile that seemed to light up even that cloudy sky. "I will fight every day of my life. For you. For us." The sound of distant thunder didn't make them flinch. On the contrary, it sealed that moment like a silent promise that, even when storms came, they would be ready. Together. Without saying another word, Benjamin held her by the nape of her neck and kissed her. An intense, long kiss, full of everything words could never translate. There on that pier, two broken souls met, and for the first time recognized each other as whole. The sky seemed to be on their side that day. A gentle breeze stirred the colorful flags tied to the poles around the central square. The smell of freshly planted flowers mixed with the aroma of coffee coming from a small community trailer that Emma had helped build with her own hands. Children ran through the garden, laughing, free, exactly as she once dreamed to be. There she stood, in front of the white-walled building with navy-blue details, looking at the sign shining under the golden light of the late afternoon. Hope and Renewal Community Center, founded by Emma Sullivan and Benjamin Harrington. The sound of Benjamin's footsteps approaching from behind made her close her eyes for a second, absorbing every detail of that moment, which felt like a dream after so much suffering, so many tears, so much humiliation. "Emma," his voice was hoarse, broken by emotion, "do you have any idea how much I admire you?" She slowly turned, facing the man she once swore she would never trust again, and who today was her partner in life, in dreams, and in struggle. He wore a white dress shirt, sleeves rolled up to the elbows, and a dark blue blazer. In his eyes, there was no longer arrogance, no shadows of the man he used to be. Only love, redemption, and deep respect. "Benjamin." Her voice trembled, the lump in her throat making it hard to speak. "If someone had told me that the spoiled, arrogant, cold boy I once hated would be the man who would walk with me to change lives, I would never have believed it." He held her face with both hands, eyes moist. "I wouldn't have believed it either, because, Emma, you didn't just teach me what love is. You taught me what it means to be a man. What it means to have dignity, not for what you own, but for what you give to the world." The sound of applause brought them out of that intimate moment. The crowd was gathered, waiting for the ceremony to start. Ordinary people, single mothers, lost youths, elderly forgotten by society. All who, in some way, had been crushed by social differences were now there, looking at them as a beacon of hope. Emma stepped onto the stage. Her hands trembled, but her voice, when it came out, was firm, powerful, like never before. "When I was just a girl, I heard many times that people like me had no place in the world of the great. That being poor, being the daughter of a forgotten woman, condemned me to live in the shadows, always serving, always silent." She took a deep breath, fighting back tears. Benjamin watched her, amazed, like witnessing a miracle happening right before his eyes. "But today, I say, looking at all of you, that no one is condemned to live in the shadows, because our worth is not in our last name, nor in the money we carry, but in our courage to stand up and fight. This center is for everyone who, like me, like my mother, were ignored, humiliated, but who carry inside themselves a strength the world couldn't destroy." The crowd stood up, applauding loudly, some openly crying, others hugging, swept up in a wave of emotion that seemed to wash over every corner of the square. Benjamin then took the microphone, looking straight at the audience. "And I am living proof that change is possible. I rejected my own last name. I faced my father, my own family, because I understood there is no greater wealth than giving back dignity to those the system tried to steal from." He looked at Emma, held her hand, and at that moment, before the whole city, declared with a voice filled with emotion, "Emma Sullivan, you are and always will be the reason for my transformation. The woman who taught me that love is not just looking into someone's eyes. Love is building, repairing, transforming." She smiled, eyes moist, and replied, "And you, Benjamin, taught me that not every powerful man has to be cruel, that there is nobility in humility, and that together we are unstoppable." Then, together, they cut the red ribbon. The crowd erupted in celebration. Fireworks lit up the sky. Children ran smiling, and the older ones embraced, filled with the certainty that from that day forward, their lives would never be the same. The camera, if it were a soap opera, would pull back to a wide shot, showing the community centre glowing, full of life, full of hope, as the final narration played over. In this story, we learn that true love is not just passion. It is the courage to face the ghosts of the past, turn pain into strength, and together build a future where everyone, absolutely everyone, deserves a place of dignity and love. The sound of laughter, voices, and community music echoed as the image slowly pulled away, rising, showing Charleston in the background, bathed in the golden light of the sunset. And so ends this story full of love, pain, overcoming, and redemption. Now tell me, what did you think of this plot? Leave your rating from 0 to 10 in the comments. I really want to know your opinion. If you liked it, don't forget to like, share it with someone who loves a good emotional story, and of course, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of the upcoming stories. And before you go, hang on, because I've picked another story that's even more exciting, intense, and will touch your heart deeply. Go check it out.